Right, good morning, good morning, good morning, good morning, good morning. My apologies for starting a little bit later. Welcome to the Sales Accelerator program. Today we are in the den and we're going to be talking today more specifically about precise processes around three main areas. We're going to talk about mindset, we're going to talk about skill set, we're going to talk about habits, and I'm going to break down to you on the war room wall more specifics that you need to focus in on over the next 45 minutes to an hour to be able to help you go from a stage you're at now to that next stage. And for the vast majority of the time, the simple things that we've put into place now, today, this week, are going to make a dramatic difference across the other side. Now, 95% of people will watch this back, which is great. And the more that the Sales Accelerator program is evolving, the more it's becoming clear that actually people really like, maybe you're the same, being able to watch this back because you get to pause it, take notes, and then action step it, which is great. Now, if you end up watching it live, join in part way. Remember, you have the auto transcription there to also act as an assistant to ask questions, find action steps, find trainings, find specifics. But I'm going to break this down. So if you are watching this now on the watch back, I want you to be able to pause this. I'm going to try and make sure that we're doing things in a way that's aligned and clear and concise for you. So I've got some board pens and we're going to jump into it. The big thing we're going to find here is these board pens probably won't be thick enough for you to see fully on these, but I'm going to get some big ones for next week. So let me break this down for you in the way that my mentor broke it down to me years ago, just to give you context of exactly what and how to be able to move forward with what you're doing. So we're going to be talking about the three primary pillars, and they're going to be around the mindset, the skill set, and the habits. Now, I'm going to break these down in a way that's going to make life easier for you, but also for you to be able to make sure it's actually the right way around. I can't see it. Yes, it is. So that you can really understand this. And I've got frameworks for each of these for you to remember, but I want to address a couple of things. The primary focus for you will be different maybe for someone else. What will get the biggest impact for you will likely be different to someone else. And this is where we have to have the self-awareness to understand where am I now on each of these scales compared to your potential. So let's talk about that for a moment. Let's zoom forward and let's imagine for a minute that if I shut this blind now, it might not fit as much. Yeah, that's probably a little bit better on there. Is that a bit better? I think so. We want to think about what is our potential. So let's think about you, the very best version of you that there's ever going to be. Where are you now compared to that in your mindset, your skill set, and your habits? I'll give you my overview for me. My mindset now is at the best it's ever been, but I think I'm probably 60% of my potential. But this is amazing. My skill set compared to my potential, again, I'm probably at 60%, which I'm really, really happy with, but I know I've got room to grow. And my habits, for me, I think they are super darling. My habits are probably at 85% compared to my potential. Remember, habits aren't just about you working automatically harder. It's about where you're trying to get to your potential. There's always going to be harder work, but that's not what we're looking for. So then we want to be able to think about this matters to two areas: the potential for you becoming the best version of you, and for you in your business, this makes a huge difference on all areas. Because actually, Just because you're your best version in your personal life doesn't mean that you are in your business life, and vice versa. So we want to be able to look at this as how can we move forward in the best way? I'm not going to focus as much today around this side. I'm going to focus more today around you in the business sense of where you are now. And this is why. These being done with small but consistent changes will have a massive impact on each and every area. And I'll give you a prime example. If I was playing football and we've got the goal here, and I keep shooting and I'm doing all the hard work, but I keep missing the target here, and only like 1 in every 5 go in. He might have the right mindset, I might have the right habits, but my skill set of being on target is slightly off. But this might only need a small adjustment for this to happen more consistently. Does that make sense? So this might be your self-focus. Some people out there, they know that their mindset, which also links into their confidence, needs work. But when we're talking about our confidence, that is affected by all three. And let me explain why. Confidence comes from the proof of the ability of being able to do something. So you might have the best belief in yourself, but if your skill set's low and your habits are low, and you're not getting consistent results, or you're getting erratic results because your habits are off, this can just be delusion. So we want to make sure that we're doing this in the right way. And this is the goal for us moving forward, is to make sure that we're helping you achieve this in a way that you currently don't have. And we want to make sure we can do this in a way which is more effective. And this is why we're going to move us over ever so slightly to this side here. So let's see if I can even do it properly. I need to zoom this in, I think, a little bit more. So we're going to move over to this board, and I want to talk to you about a couple of different areas. Why should you focus on some of these parts that are in there? Well, here's why that I would suggest it's really, really important. You need to understand how you sell. So when you sell currently, which of these do you do? Do you sell in a 1-call close? Do you do a 2-call close? Do you do a 3-call, or maybe even a 4-call? The vast majority of you won't be doing this. Some of you might be doing this, and most of you are doing this. And what this normally means is you're going to have leads that are coming in organically, but the most of you are probably having it coming through from paid ads. Now, that means that when these leads here drop into here, you need to understand that if you're trying to do a 1-call close, which a lot of people in the coaching space do, you're doing everything in that one section. This one here might be appointment setting, and that might be phone or messenger into the sale. This here might be an appointment setting or phone into call, and it might be either a follow-up or a proposal. This one here, I am not focusing on today because it is going to dilute the time that we've got together. So now we've got to think about this. Let's zoom in a little bit more off the back of this, and let's sort of go down the rabbit hole in a better place. Have you got all the notes on the other side? I hope so. We're going to wipe it off. Okay, so back over to board number 1, people. I think we're about right. Hopefully that's working for you, because it's working for me. Okay, so now we're at the stage that we've got to think about our 3 areas: mindset, skill set, and habits. But let's say, for example, let's lean into this part because this is where most businesses are in a two-call or a two-step sales process. What most people are doing is a very short first stage and then a longer stage where this part here leads to a deal. Now, this can work really, really well. But this design is designed more for organic traffic. And here's why. If you've got someone with organic traffic, they know, like, and trust, they've had exposure to you as well. They've got awareness to success of yours. They have a belief. And all of these are being pushed into the first phone call. So then it becomes more a day of fit for you. You can fit on qualification, time, need, decision, all that sort of stuff. And this means that once you get to this stage, should be a higher performing conversion. But if you push in paid ads into this, you are actually missing out on a vast majority of that unless it's come from a retargeting ad. So now you're trying to fit know, like, and trust, exposure, awareness, belief, previous success into this same time frame, which means you don't necessarily get as much as this in. And now when you get to this stage, this ends up being a low converter. Does that sound more familiar? If it does, let's get a plan for it. So, how can we fix this? Well, the problem that you've got is most people at this stage have the mindset that hitting the phones at this point is uncomfortable, scary, time wasting, and about 25 other excuses. They just want to get to this part. But let me give you the reason why. This is where you make the money. You don't get paid for this. So people see that it's a waste of time. But unfortunately, if they are not sold on the know, like, and trust, the exposure, awareness, they've got the qualification, the time, they need a decision. When they get into this stage, they tell you that they need to think about it. They need to have time. And this is why when you see some of the big names out in the industry, they talk about doing the inner work so that when you go into doing a one call close, you can do all of this in that one stage. And the problem is for a lot of businesses, you don't have the skills yet to get to that stage. It's a good thing to work towards, but in the same way of trying to swim 1,000 meters, if you've never swum before, quite hard. So if you're getting to the higher level of what you do, this is a sensible option. So what's actually more of a beneficial way of doing it? Let me talk to you about it. Change to blue because it's no reason. Let's imagine for the moment that we come in and we had a longer first stage. We potentially could get a shorter second stage. Not by much, but we could. Because if you can master the phone in the appointment seller booking stage, you can then do a lot more of this work in this stage, which actually will strengthen this, get you a higher conversion, and more likely that you're going to stay consistent in the actions that you're doing because you know what to do at this stage. Now, just because you don't make money at this stage, you've got to remember that the long-term play here is to get them to this stage inside of, well, it might be 24 to 48, 72 hours. Now, the reason that people don't do this is they want to put it off because they're not making money. But actually, the problem that you've got is if you haven't got a solid appointment setting process behind this stage for the vast majority of businesses where you are not as skilled as you might like, but you have got a low level of confidence, you have a low level of belief, you have a low level of skills. But doing this stage is hard, and I'll tell you the main reason why. If you're in a business where this is being done face to face or on Zoom, you're having to get everything smooth, aligned, and in your head without having any prompts. That's why this is a problem for you. Because when you get into the face to face and the phone, it becomes really, really hard. But here's what you can do instead. This stage, if you're on the phone call, you can have all little prompts, guides, tools, sets, and all the other stuff that's in there to actually help you move forward whilst you are staying more effective at what you are actually doing. And then as you get skilled, you can lose the armband to be more effective at it. Now, does everyone need to do this? No. This is talking to the people out there that are struggling. So if you're at the stage now, let's say that you're one of the solar companies, heating, flooring, any of the people out there that are going out and doing a face-to-face, it's harder. But also if you're doing Zoom, it's harder. So unless you're going to have it where you're looking like you're reading off a script, it doesn't help. So what can you end up doing to make this life a little bit easier? You can implement a load of this different stuff. So how are we going to do this? So let's think about where we're at the moment. If we can get to the stage that we have a solid first call and a solid this side, whether this is face-to-face, Zoom, and if you're doing it on the phone, again, it's okay. I prefer the phone. But this here, you could have as phone, makes it easier. But what we want to be able to do is we need to be able to bridge this gap here. And this time causes issues. And most people out there, you don't have an aligned process that is filling that gap. And let's think about it. If you don't put something in this time frame between the first call and the second call, the person is going to have something. So they're either going to forget, you're going to lose temperature, something else will come in its way. Or they just get nervous. And this is why you get cancellations and you get people that freak out. Now, this happens if you're doing a shorter first stage, this happens even more. And that's why you get the cancellations and all the other stuff. So what do we need to make sure that we're doing? Well, we need to make sure that we're actually using this time a little bit more widely. Because this time's here all the same. So the first thing that we want to do is we want to make this time frame, we want to make it shorter. Oh, that one's better. Look at that. And we want to make this time frame before the face-to-face, phone, Zoom, put sales, where we make the money. We want to make this shorter. So we've got to fill in this gap. So one thing we need to do is we need to connect these two stages up more. We need to set the next steps here. You need to have all the other things of, oh no, this is a permanent. Crap. That's a permanent pen. Oh, I thought that was coming out really well. We have to wipe the other one. Bear with me. Okay. Carry on there. So we want to make sure that that gap is smaller. And we want to fill this gap with other things that are going to increase likelihood of meeting, talks to pain points, talks to issues, shows solutions, shows results, and it talks to exactly where they are now. Now, why do we want to do that? Because let's say, for example, that they're in this stage here and they've got the feelings of nerves, fears, misconceptions, wrong beliefs, wrong influences. When they feel these things, that can be the whole reason that they don't go ahead. That can be the main reason that they stop. They go, I feel this means I'm in the wrong place. But if you can fill this gap up between the setting to the sale, the setting stage to the sales stage, but when you feel this, they understand at this point why they feel it. You actually get to label what they're thinking, what they're feeling, and why they feel it. And actually, you get to give a new perspective. So, what's really important is at each of these stages that we're at, we're helping people to have a different perspective and a shift in what they're actually talking about, what they're thinking about. So, if you feel X, instead of them labeling it, you get to label. If they hear Y, you get to label. If someone outside says X, you get to label. So what do we mean by that? The same objections that you get throughout the sales process are based around a lot of these fears, misconceptions, and concerns that happen. And that's why if you have a shorter phone cycle, longer sales cycle, when this happens, they feel like they're being pulled into a sale or shoved into a sale or dragged into a sale rather than moving themselves. And we want them to feel like they're moving themselves. That's the goal here. And if they feel like they are moving themselves, they are more likely to gain traction and momentum in the sales process. So you've got to think of it now. For you, when you set an appointment, what is happening between that stage and when you have the face-to-face or phone, whatever it is, meeting that leads to a sales offer? What's happening in that stage? Now, for most of you out there, if you're on the Conversations to Clients program, we've built a lot of this out for you already. Or if we haven't, we are. But to give people that are just on the sales accelerator side a bit of a nugget, a bit of a goodie, a bit of an overview, let me talk to you about it a little bit. And I'll show you some of the goodness on how this can work. Let's say, for example, we have an explanation video. Why would we use an explanation video? Well, because me standing there and saying you're X, you're Y, you're Ron doesn't have the same impact. But with an animated explanation video, you get to set a stage in a visual way that goes straight into people's heads. But you also don't need props to be good as an actor, scenery, scenarios. You don't need people to be involved because it's all animated. But it still gives them an aha moment. It still gives them a perspective shift. And for someone to make a purchase, they have to make a change. And for someone to make a change, they're going to need maybe a new perspective. Maybe they need new information. Maybe they need new pain. Maybe they need to change in circumstance. Now, this one here is the only one you're not changing. But if you can change their perspective, the information, the pain, or you could just bracket it into their knowledge, this is going to make life a lot easier for you. So much easier for you. And I'll give you a prime example. Anyone who's a client of mine, you've seen my explainer videos. Now, it doesn't mean that you necessarily watch them and go, my God, that was amazing. But they logically make sense. And when you watch it, it gives you a little cog turns just that little bit more. And if we keep getting more cogs to turn, this gives us a shift in perspective with new information and often will aggravate a pain where staying the same is not an option. And that's the biggest goal. It is not just to get people to turn around and be like, oh, this sounds nice. This sounds fluffy. This sounds fun. It's about giving people a real change. And this is what I want for you guys, is to realize that the gap between the appointment and the sales call process, let's put sales call, that gap is like a dead man's zone unless you make it better. And if you can set up a better appointment, you can have a shorter sales cycle. With this being a strength, it is going to just elevate to the next level the results that you go off and you get. Now, you might be thinking, oh, it's a lot of work. Not having a good conversion is a lot of work. Missing deals is a lot of work. And these explainer videos, this is just one area, one of around 8 areas that we use in conversations to clients to get things to move better. Because it talks to a picture, an overview, a painting, a structure, a process, a problem, whatever it might be that people face. And we want to make sure that people understand that. And the great thing is you can then automate this stuff in there. Now, you can end up at the stage, really annoying. I've ruined this, by the way. You know, if you want to get rid of permanent marker, side tip for you. If you use a non-permanent marker to wipe over it, it'll get rid of it. Which is annoying because it's going to take about an hour to do. So back to the conversation. So we want to start thinking about if we've got 8 different areas within the business that we can bolt into on like the explanation, the conversations to clients program for you. Although it might take a bit of effort to go and get it done, once it's done, you can use it for years and in so many options. Because it's not just about only using it in that one automated process between those 2 cycles. You can start using the explainer videos when someone gives you a question to generate leads in conversation. It also can be used as a talking point. It can be used to handle objections. It can give you the ability to prevent objections. It also helps you get context. It also gives you more content. It also gets to explain a story without needing skills. This is why when you're looking at your process, if it's a 1, 2, 3, or 4 stage process, you can start thinking about what can be done with these areas before, inside, during, in the middle of, at any point. For any of you that have been with us before, you'll know that with our cycle, we have a conversation. We have this site here. We have a video here on becomeyourpotential.info. It's a 34-minute explainer video. Why should you work with me? If someone isn't prepared to watch that 34-minute video, there is no point in us even having a phone call with them. Because if they're not prepared to invest 34 minutes into watching a video to get context, there's no point. But the benefit for them is they get context and we get to do all of this point. So now when we get on a phone call, we have a talking point. We can ask them what they thought, what they found, what they liked, what they didn't like. So this actually ends up meaning now for us that our first call is far shorter. And it also means that our sales cycle is far shorter because we've got this so dialed in now that with the video at the start, the magic that we put in the middle, but this cycle now is around 25% of what it used to be. That then means when we scale, we can actually do things far more effectively without it costing us conversions. Then it's not about needing more leads. So this is what I want you guys to be thinking about. How are you going to implement this? What are the changes that you need to put into play inside of your business, inside of your sales process now? And this is the same for salespeople. Just because you work for an organization, just because you can't change the system, doesn't mean that you cannot go off and action a load of these things. It doesn't mean you can't have a video, a process. It doesn't mean you can't qualify in a better way. You've just got to get better at doing this stuff. And if you're sitting there now thinking, well, Dave, I don't know what to do something. Don't wait for it to magically get better. Because it doesn't just magically get better. Okay. So that gives you the systemized way of making things better. But I want to now go back to what we were talking about before, which was the 3 areas. Okay. Mindset, your skill set, and your habits. And what I'm going to do is give you some acronyms so that you can start working through this as well. So we've got the mindset, which is on the pros. We've got the skill set, which is the close. And then we've got the habits one, which is the sale. Put it all together, pros, close, sales. So we're going to break these down into single areas. So you've got a bit better idea of why this works. Okay, so we're going to jump into it. Some of these areas you probably overlook. Some of them take it for granted. I genuinely mean this. You ignore a load of this stuff at your own peril. It is not advisable for you to miss out on a load of this stuff. So the mindset side is basic to start with, but it's super, super important. If you haven't got a positive attitude about stuff, you are literally screwing yourself over so much. If you're waking up today thinking it's going to be a terrible day, it is not going to make your life any easier. You can't, just because you took a bit of a kicking before, had a bad week, didn't get that deal, go into it with the negative vibes that it's going to be bad. Business is not always going to be perfect, but your attitude is as important as your skill set, because you could have all of the skills in the world, but if you have a sucky attitude, you are not going to action or implement them in the right way. You're also going to miss a massive amount of opportunities if you don't have the right attitude behind what you are actually doing. And this is why it is so important for you to make sure that you're doing things in the right way. So, number one, positive attitude. R. I don't know why I typed. I wrote an S, and I have no idea why. Resilience. If you can't embrace rejection, hurdles, problems, you're going to be really stuck. And I talk to people a lot. This is really annoying me, this board. But I talk a lot about bounce back ability. And the problem for most people is when they're okay, when life is absolutely perfect. But the problem is, as soon as an issue happens, it takes them a long time to not just get back to normal, but get back to full strength. And the quicker we can go from life's good, bad things happen, back to normal, back to full strength, and everything's back, if we can shorten this time frame, it means we're going to be more effective in life. And to do that, you've got to have a level of resilience that's going to make your life easier. And that leads you into the O. Optimistic. If you are 30 years old now and you don't believe in you, how can you expect other people to? If you don't believe in your product, if you don't believe in your process, if you don't believe in yourself, you've got to be able to instill trust into someone. And if you don't have a level of optimism about things, you're not going to be able to do it to a high level. And it's really going to mess up everything that you do. Mindset-wise, number 4. Self-improvement. This isn't about upsells. This is not me trying to get you to buy more programs. But continuous improvement's really important. Because if you stop learning, how do you expect things to magically get better? Because all you're then doing is relying on time. And sales is an eroding skill. A bit like going to the gym. If you go into the gym and you're like, yeah, no, I went to the gym, completed it. We wouldn't expect to have any type of muscle definition off the back of it just because you went 2 years ago. It's exactly the same thing. We want to make sure we're working on our mindset, our skill set, and our habits to keep moving forward. Okay, so get these 4 right. What's the area you need to improve on? Is your mindset off? Is your resilience off? You're not optimistic? Are you not doing any self-improvement? If you're watching this back, self-improvement, you're doing some, but could you be doing more? Okay, so moving into the close. Communication. Communication is vitally important. You've got to be able to speak clearly. You've got to be concisely. You've got to actively be able to listen. You've got to connect emotionally with your prospects. You've got to be able to build trust. You've got to build need. You've got to be able to communicate what's in your mind, the problems and the fears and the concerns that you have to a level that people can understand and believe in you easily. And that's through your communication. Think about it that time when you heard someone tell a joke and their joke just dragged on. Someone else could tell that same joke and their delivery is just on point. That communication is vital. L, double-barreled, listen and learn. So we need to understand the prospect's needs. We need to understand their pain. We've got to understand where they are. We've got to understand their location right now. Where are they right now? Too many people are trying to work out roughly what country someone's in to rescue them. But in every country, there is mountains, there's rivers, there's seas, there's streams, there's deserts, there's rainforests, there's whatever there is. The tools that you need to rescue someone is going to be based on their location and the problem that they have. So you need to listen and you need to learn on exactly what is going on. If you don't understand the right pain points and then build that gap, it's going to be far harder. Now, This is another double barrel one. Oh, objections. You've got two sides. We have prevention and we have handled. With your early stage, you're likely going to be stuck doing objection handling because you're not good at doing the communication and the listening and learning. So you have to objection handle to move yourself forward because you're not skilled and competent. Over time, you want to get to the stage of having objection prevention. That means that you don't have to handle as many objections because you've already prevented the vast majority from happening in the first place. And if you can prevent objections coming up, this will also keep the flow up and the resistance down. And if you can keep the flow up, increase flow, and reduce resistance, you're going to be in a far better place. S. Solution focused. If you are not solution focused, you're screwing yourself. And I'll give you a prime example. As I say this, you should be able to say out loud exactly what you do. What is the result you deliver to people? What are then one result? What are three other results that can happen? If you can be solution focused, where you can articulate clearly, concisely, one or even sometimes for free of what they have got is going to make your life easier. And that's going to take you into the final part of this stage, which is effective closing. Let me shut this window. I live right next to the water, so literally you have a boats going past. Okay. So we're at the stage now, but we've covered our mindset, we've covered our skill set. We've managed to go through, we've got all this aligned. So now we need to go through the final stage. So we're going to work out, where are we now on our positivity scale? How can we become more positive? I don't mean just skip down the road blindly, but having a positive outlook matters. Resilience, optimism, self-improvement, better communication, listening and learning, objection prevention over handles, solution focused, effective closing. Then we're going to get into our habits, and we're going to make sure that our habits are doing things in the right way. So for your S, systematic prospecting. Having daily, weekly time where you are finding, nurturing new leads and building out your pipeline. Pretty simple. A, you've got to make sure you are action orientated, that's better. Action orientated, Jesus Christ, follow-ups and processes. You've got to stay proactive with the leads, with the processes to move them through to that next stage. So if you're at a stage that it's a freeze call process, what are you doing today to move them to that next stage? Maybe you're at a stage where there's 5 or 6 processes in B2B. Your goal should be to always to move them to that next stage. What are your action-orientated tasks to move that forward? You're going to move into L. What is going on, Martin? You need to become lead focused. You've got to prioritize the leads that you have based on their readiness to buy and the lower level of resistance that they have, and how can you increase the flow within those leads. Next up, you need to have a high level of efficiency. If you're not efficient in the way you're using your time, you're always going to become stuck. You're going to work really, really hard and you're going to get really, really stuck. And your final part of your habits, I haven't wrote this bigger because it's more important, because it's the bottom of it. It's a bit of self-reflection. Review what went well. Review what went bad. What are some of the improvements you could make? Did you do the work? Did you do the call? Did you have the right mindset? Did you have the right level of optimism? Were you moving forward in the right way? Were your skill sets on point? Were your habits on point? Were you doing all of this stuff? rate yourself in these different areas to move it forward. And if you do that consistently over time, you're going to make money. Okay. There's a lot for you to action into this today. Hopefully you've watched it, you paused it, you've moved yourself forward, moved yourself through, and you've got yourself to the right stage of everything you're doing. Go and have a great week. See you all soon.